All right. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the third episode of the SGN podcast. It's taken us a while to get here, but we're finally back, and I got a very special guest. Super excited to have him on here. Scorpio Sky, thank you so much for taking the time.
What up? Man, my pleasure, dude. This will be fun. We've been talking about it for a minute, so.
I know, man. I've been talking about the podcast for 2 years since I dropped my last episode. Been talking about it. I know I've been hammering you about it. Hey, will you come on? And you've been willing to do it. I just haven't done it, but we're back, and I'm really diving in. I'm going to commit to it. So for those of the listeners here who aren't familiar with us, with you, if you could just take a second to introduce yourself, tell them about you and who you are and what kind of video games you play.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually a professional wrestler. I work for a company called AEW, All Elite Wrestling. And I've been doing this for about 20 years, man, since I was a teenager. So started really young, had to grind through the, independent circuit and work my way up through the minor leagues. And then finally, in the later years, got to a bigger company. So happy about that. And as far as video games go, I'm a big 2K guy. Obviously that's one of your main channel focuses is NBA 2K. And really that's like the only game I play. I was never a gamer. I got into 2K during COVID and lockdown. So,
well, there's nothing wrong with that. And I'll tell you right now, like I decided to really pursue my YouTube channel the fall of 2019. I had some videos uploaded to YouTube that I had done in the past for Operation Sports and things like that, but I had like 90 subscribers in the fall of 2019, and that's when I decided, hey, I'm going to try to do something. And as horrible as COVID was, and as much as I hate that it never happened, when I tell you that made my channel blow up because everyone started playing video games and started searching up stuff, and they all found my content because they wanted to play franchise mode, it was crazy. So
yeah,
dude,
that's probably when I found you. Honestly, like I was the type of guy that like hated video games. And if I was at one of my friends' house and they started playing games, I would like leave. I just didn't like video games at all. Like when I was a kid, I played, but like from the time I was, 9-10 years old, I was over it. But I'm a huge sports and basketball fan. And so obviously when COVID happened, the NBA shut down completely. I was missing basketball. Mm-hmm. And I had a roommate at the time, my boy Eric Watts, shout out. And he had like a PS4 and he was just like, yeah, you should try out this game, NBA 2K. And it was at the time it was 2K19 he had. And he was just telling me all the stuff you can do. He's like, yeah, you can make trades, you can sign free agents and yada yada. And one of the big things I love about basketball is the business side, is the trades and the team building, that sort of thing. So when I first started doing it, it was just out of missing basketball. And I mean, I just became addicted. Not long after playing, maybe a couple of weeks of 2K19, I was like, hey, I think I'm going to buy 2K20. And then I bought 2K20 and I bought every single game since. And I want to say sometime, I've always been into franchise, obviously, because, like I said, the business side. I probably found your content on YouTube sometime in that next year, because when I first started, I was all on default. I didn't know anything about sliders. But I was always finding things I didn't like about the game. I was just like, man, like, I don't really like this or that. And then I think I just started getting on YouTube and I discovered sliders and I'm like, dang, you could do this and this. And like, it just opened an entire new world. And like, honestly, it was a life-changing experience, because now flash forward all these years later, how like, I don't want to say obsessive, but how into NBA 2K I am. Like, it's crazy that it took a pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the same way. I wish it didn't happen, but so it's good that we can draw good things out of it.
Yeah, it's great to find blessings in bad situations. It's I love the fact you pointed out like the owner mode, like franchise. I think that's what developers don't understand. The people that like to play franchise, it's the gameplay against the CPU, which you can go and get that in the ultimate team modes for Madden, 2K, MLB The Show, FIFA, whatever. But people love to pretend that they're the coach, that they're the GM, that they're the one pulling the triggers, because we all we're all the people who sit on the couch or chill with our friends at the bar and be like, well, I would have made this move. I wouldn't have signed him. We all have our own opinions of what we do or how we run a franchise, but we're never going to get to experience that in real life. But video games give us an avenue to do that. And we get so invested into it, and we get invested into it. And what's crazy is there's for 2K specifically, ton of big YouTube content creators who do my career. But one of the biggest content creators for 2K is Kenny Beecham, and he does rebuild videos.
Yeah.
He takes control of teams and he rebuilds them. And obviously everyone knows him from Through the Wire and House of Highlights and Bleacher Report and that whole group of guys. And that's what Pee Wee does as well. They do franchise rebuild videos, and look at the following. And I think developers need to realize there's a huge area of opportunity here to grow it outside of 2K, Madden, MLB The Show, things like that. Like, there's a huge following. People love to see other people's ideas.
Absolutely.
And what moves they do,
I watch all those guys. I watch
Yeah.
Kenny, I watch Pee Wee, and a number of other guys, Crushables, tons of guys. And the more I've gotten into it, the more I have discovered that the franchise community is a little bit neglected by the creators, which sucks, because I feel like we are asking the least. If you're a franchise game player, really all you want is the most realistic experience you can get, which is probably the most simple. Like, we're not trying to do flipping dunks and crazy stuff like that. Like, hey, in the NBA, you're allowed to trade injured players. I would like to be able to trade injured players in NBA 2K. I'm a Laker fan, right? The big thing is, the Lakers have a 2029 first round pick that they can trade. In 2K, I don't have a 2029 first round pick, right, because it stops at 2028. So it's just like these little things that, we wish we can have. And those are just small things. Obviously, there are bigger things. Yeah. But just the little things, that could be an easy fix. Right. And it gets frustrating. But, the sliders and all the stuff that yourself and guys like yourself do to make it a great sim experience, I mean, it's truly incredible of what you can do with a video game and how far you can stretch it.
And I wanted to circle back, because you were saying something that, like, growing up, you didn't play video games, and you had friends who played video games and you hated video games, and now you got into 2K because of COVID. And I just wanted to ask, like, going from growing up hating video games to getting into 2K in video games in the last 4 years to now you're in a video game, like, isn't that kind of wild? Like,
that is crazy.
You're like, so many people would give anything to be in a video game. You hated video game. Like, every childhood kid's dream who played video games, like, I want to be in a video game one day. You hated video games, and now you're in a video game. Like, isn't it just wild how things, like, circle around like that?
The funny thing is, I've never actually played the game. Like, I've never used myself or anything. Like, people are like, "What the hell? You're in a game?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I've never." Like,
I mean, that's
like wrestling games.
You gotta, though. I think just for fun, man, just one time, fire it up and play as yourself. Put it on easy mode. Nobody needs to know. Yeah. Like, you obviously don't know the controls or anything like that. Just put it on easy mode and just go ahead and be like, "Yeah, that's right. Let's do." And just, it could be kind of cool to see, like, in your own opinion, how well they replicated you, because that's some things they do in 2K too. They have signature shots, signature dribble animations, signature player movement now. And
I used to work for WWE 2K, actually. Obviously, I didn't work for 2K, but like, as a wrestler, they would kind of bring me in every month, and I did it for years. And we were basically doing that, like, not a signature shot, obviously, but you would do a move the way that wrestler does the move, or you do it his entrance the way that wrestler does. I mean, I remember doing just hundreds of entrances and moves, and you'd be there all day for a week. And it's just amazing how, like, you can watch the game, you could see it, and like, especially, bringing it back to 2K, especially now with Pro Play, and you see those moves. I remember when the trailer dropped and they showed Kevin Durant hitting that move and doing the head fake, like, kind of selling like the contact, and it's just amazing how far the game is coming, and it's just getting better every year when it comes to stuff like that. And it's exciting, man.
It really is exciting. I'm curious, when you went and practiced and you did all these moves for WWE, like did you like entrances and stuff like that? My first question is did you have a favorite like other person's move that you got to perform? Like, was there one that you absolutely loved, and there one that was like, man, this sucks. I really don't want to have to do this one, or have to do multiple takes of this one because it's challenging or not fun to do. Or
what would happen a lot is we would come up with stuff that we would want to do, not necessarily stealing from someone else, but like we would come up with another idea of like, oh, like we could do something similar to this, but instead of this we do this. And it was like we had a big group, like we had a great group of guys. It was myself, another cat, he goes by the name of LA Knight, he was there every month. There was a guy, Kenny King. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll know these names. And just a number of other guys that would come through, Austin Theory, and we just came up with a lot of stuff. And honestly, it makes hold on, got too into it, unplugged my mic on accident. I was gonna say, honestly, it makes you a better performer, right? Because the way we would shoot, example, the entrances is we would do it in 3 sets. They would basically be what they did at the top of the stage, what they would do walking the aisle, and then what they would do getting in the ring. And the way we would do it is we would watch the film right before we do it. And if we had to watch it multiple times, we would, because you want to try to do it as identical to the guy you're imitating as possible. And that kind of opens up your mind as a performer, because then you're like, well, if someone's imitating me, what would they do? Because a lot of times people come out and they're doing different stuff every single time. And that's hard to follow, right? As opposed to the Undertaker, who walks out, he goes onto the stairs, he brings the lights up, he climbs to the ropes, he takes off his jacket, then he takes off his hat, he throws his hair back, you know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing every time, and that builds within the audience, and the audience knows what to expect. And so it just, like I said, it opens up doors for yourself as a performer. And that's when I started perfecting my entrance of like, okay, what am I going to do step by step?
Yeah. And is that how you got ideas for yours too? Like, yeah, when you got to,
well, it makes you want to come up with something like, what can I come up with that people would want to imitate? Yeah. And obviously my name is Sky, and so that's where I came up with the idea, like, oh, reach for the sky. And they the guy that does the music for AEW created a song called Reach for the Sky. And I was like, okay, so what if I do a thing where basically, honestly, I thought about it as the emoji hands, they're like that. And I was like, all right, well, what if I just kind of like did a little dip and my hands can come up like that, and I can have like the pyro go off, and that could be like my thing, reach for the sky. And so, you just come up with things that will catch on. And now I'll see like videos of kids at home, like their parents will record them and they're like imitating it, which is really cool.
Yeah. Getting back to how that applies to you, I know you're big on accessories in 2K. You're big on like the finer details,
bro. And signature shots, accessories. Every year I get deeper and deeper in this rabbit hole that's called NBA 2K, man. I make shoes because I'm a sneakerhead.
Yes, a huge sneakerhead.
Yeah, I wish you could see. I've got my sneaker closet right here. I mean, there's probably 40 pairs of Jordan 1s. Just all kinds of other shoes, just Air Force Ones, like Kobe's, LeBron's, everything. But yeah, you had a question. Sorry.
No. Yeah, no, that was, you answered my question. So I was like, yeah, like, so you're huge into the details. Like you get into signature shots, you get into accessories, you spend a lot of time tweaking those. Do you see yourself like, or does it carry over to draft classes too, especially if you use realistic ones? If there's a draft class that's realistic that is off, do you take the time to like try to fix it, try to tweak it, or do you find another one, or do draft classes not apply to you in as much?
So I don't really mess with attributes or tendencies too much when it comes to the draft classes. What I'll do is I'll look at likenesses, and I remember on last year's game, I went through every player in the draft, or at least like the top 50 or 60 guys.
Yeah.
And I looked up their Instagrams, I looked up their pictures, and I edited their faces, and I made them look as perfect as I possibly can. And I never used the class.
You never got there.
Never got there, man.
You restarted a lot last year, man. There was a lot of restarts for you.
I really like, you know how I felt about 2K23. I was not happy with that game. There was just so many problems with that game. Even the draft classes. Like, remember, you load the draft class in and it would randomize all of their attributes. And the guy that's supposed to be a number 1 pick now has the talent of the 58th pick in the draft. Just frustrating. Yeah, like nowadays, I'm not really doing that as much. I'll find other guys. Like I found this guy recently. I would like to shout him out. His Insta or his YouTube page is Richie2K, and he just does a lot of likenesses, and he does classic players. You know, he did a Patrick Mahomes like for NBA 2K. Like he'll just do random stuff, but he'll do a lot of the guys that 2K has had in the game for years, like a Moses Brown. Moses Brown has been in the league for like 4 years, and he doesn't have a face scan. So he'll make those types of guys, and some of the face scans 2K makes are or not face scans, excuse me. The guys that aren't face scans are terrible, and they look nothing like them.
So bad.
So embarrassingly bad.
The generic faces in 2K, whether it's for players or draft classes, considering the tools in their sculpt builder, the generic faces are so bad.
I would, because you know, you talk about like microtransactions and stuff like that, and how like when it is the franchise community, you know, they buy the game, and then you know the creators can't make more money off of that because they just buy the game. I don't know how other people felt. I would pay extra for good draft classes, even if they were fantasy draft classes. If 2K went through and actually like was specific and had every player created with like a good, he doesn't look like an alien, he actually looks like a person and has a story, and like, you know, or better yet, if they can actually get the rights to the real players or whatever it is, like I would actually pay extra for good draft classes.
Yeah, I mean, so I think before that wouldn't have been possible just because they weren't part of the NBA association. And I think that's where the line comes, is they're not part of the NBA Players Association, so they don't have rights to them. I wonder if they could third party it via NIL, because any player they're going to put in the draft class, if they're that good enough to be in the NBA draft, they're probably on some sort of NIL deal, or in the G League, right?
Yeah.
Which the NBA owns.
Guys should be in there. Like, and like I said, it doesn't even have to be the real players. Make it a fantasy draft like theirs, but just don't make it stupid. Don't make LaMarcus Aldridge Jr. when there's no LaMarcus Aldridge Jr. I don't know if there is in real life, but they'll put players like that though. They'll put like Anthony Edwards Jr. and it's like Anthony Edwards is like 25 or 23. Like, how does he have a kid that's in the draft already?
Right.
Like they'll just do random dumb stuff like that. And but yeah, just make it a good draft. You cannot use default draft classes. You just can't. I don't know if
you really can.
Don't even try. Like when I watch content creators and they'll use just the 2K draft class, it just takes me out of it, man. I'm like, these are terrible. Like, don't mess with them. Terrible.
They're really bad. Like I finally took the time. I've been going through and looking at both fictional and realistic draft classes, and I found a lot of draft classes that had a lot of good player faces, a lot of good attribute ratings. Like they weren't too overly rated, they weren't underly rated. Like that's not the proper grammar of how to say what I'm trying to say, but I think y'all understand. The ratings and attributes made sense. The problem was when I got in, and I know you say don't look at this, but I got into tendencies. The tendencies were awful in the sense that they would give a whole bunch of players a zero tendency. And if you're in the NBA, you should almost never have a zero tendency for something.
Agree.
And on top of that, in 2K, you almost have to be above a threshold of a certain amount, like around 30 to 35 for that to even ever trigger. And so then guys started just giving everyone this. 2K does it too, unfortunately. A lot of the same. If you go through that tendencies page of the roster, you'll see there'll be 10 different players who all play different positions, who all have the same tendency for a particular move. And it's like, are we really that lazy?
Yeah.
We have all this analytical data that with AI, you could just literally import and have it, give it a formula and have it convert it to a 0-100 scale and input it. But 2K's gotten very, very, very lazy on the tendencies. And as you know, tendencies play a much bigger aspect in how the game plays than the ratings do.
Yeah, absolutely.
The tendencies are everything, you know. And circling back, 2K23 was an absolute shit show because every time they'd launch a main menu update for the My Career Ultimate team addressing gameplay there, it would break something on our end.
Yeah. I actually talked to someone. I talked to someone at WWE 2K years ago, and I asked him. I was like, "How does this stuff happen?" And he told me that, you know, obviously a lot of it's all unintentional. Usually they'll try to fix one thing, and it'll inadvertently break something else. And so that's, I think, where a lot of these menu updates come in. Like someone's like, "Hey, you know, we're not making enough 3-point shots." So then they go in and they fix the 3-point shots. Now you can make more 3-point shots, but now you know, the ball is getting stolen from you 10 times a quarter. And it's, you know, just like dumb stuff like that. It's a constant work in progress. Like, you know, it's I understand, but at the same time, it's just like, I mean, this takes a year. You guys make these games for an entire year, or at least about 10 months out of the year. Because I know with WWE, we would finish about 2 months before launch. I mean, we would shoot 10 months out of the year, 9 or 10 months.
Wow.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, every week, every month, I'd go out there for a week to Northern California, and we'd shoot every day. So, and it was like the game. I don't know when WWE 2K comes out. I feel like it's around NBA 2K, but I think we would usually start shooting around October and finish around July, something like that.
And then they're just fine tuning the bugs and all that stuff to get everything ready to roll for their release.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, and maybe it's different, you know, the way NBA does, but I don't imagine it'd be too different. I mean, I imagine they're working on 2K25 right now.
They've been working on it. They've been working on it for sure.
Yeah, they probably started it right after 24 came out.
I mean, yeah, and you can definitely start to tell when they transition to the next game because we stopped getting patches, like big patches. And I will say that it's been really nice with 2K24 because we've had a lot of main menu updates. We haven't had anything break the game like last year. I mean, remember last year we would go from the game's playing great for 2 days, and they drop a main menu update, and it was broken for 4 days, and they bring another main menu update, then it was working again. It was back and forth. We had to deal with free throws being, like fouls being called realistically for a couple of days, and got to the point where no free throws or fouls were being called. And then we had the issue with, on real player percentage, you could never hit back-to-back shots with the same guy, no matter what.
Yep.
That was the one time I was able to get Mike Wang to respond to me, and he fixed it. The one time.
You know, I quit on 2K23, man. I was so frustrated. I was just like, you know what? I'm waiting for the next game to come out. And I stopped playing for like 3-4 months. But, you know, we've said a lot of bad things. I will say this year's game, from a gameplay perspective, is probably the best I've played. And obviously I wasn't around before 19. But
you didn't miss anything on 18, I promise you.
This year's game, I mean, just with pro play, the fact that the CPU gets fouls, you know what I mean? They're going to the line 20 plus times a game. It definitely has its flaws and things that I don't like, but for the most part, it plays really, really well. Yeah.
I mean, my favorite 2Ks of all time, when we're looking at a specifically for franchise gameplay, not my career mode, because that's different. But my favorite 2K's franchise of all time were 2K11. Franchise mode on that was absolutely insane. That was the 2K that made a huge leap, in my opinion. They've been on next gen since 2K7 for Xbox, 2K8, I believe. No, 2K7 would have been the first one for PS3 as well, but 2K11 was like, they made a huge leap. They got Jordan in the game, and that gameplay was phenomenal. 2K16 was it still holds up gameplay wise. I mean, 2K16 was top tier. 2K16's, I think a lot of people would regard 2K16 as the greatest 2K of all time, both for franchise and my career.
Wow.
That's one you definitely missed out on. That's a great game. If you ever just were bored one day, be like, well, I wonder what this old 2K felt like. Or you wanted to just go back and play a game from 8 years ago and take over the Lakers as Kobe's on his last year. You know what I mean? And, you know, do something like that. 2K16 and then 17, 18, 19, they just all just took huge steps back because it was a huge focus on my career, because my career in my player started going with VC around 13, 14. And they just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was turning into this animal. And unfortunately, the franchise side suffered for a while.
Sad, man.
But yeah,
I liked 20 though. I don't know if it's just a nostalgia thing of that's the game that really hooked me, but I had so much fun playing 20, and it had a lot of flaws, but 20 will definitely always have a special place for me because like that was the game that really connected me. Like I was canceling plans to go out and like to play that game. Like people would be like, oh, like, you know, there'd be like somebody be like, oh, you still want to go out tonight? I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I got some plans. I gotta, you know, I'm in the playoff. You know, like,
I gotta play this game 6 here. You know,
but, I'm in the middle of a playoff series. I can't be going out.
But people just don't understand how exhilarating it is. People who don't play franchise just don't understand. Like, and that's okay. They don't have to, but there's something exhilarating about it. You know, and that's where I think it's tougher to stay a franchise gamer anymore, because there's a lot of people just are finding the viewership elsewhere. So I really appreciate the guys who stick with franchise streaming in those modes, even though it's becoming more difficult, like Kenny and Pee-wee and all those guys for 2K, and there's guys that do it for Madden as well. I think like Bangle does it for Madden. He does franchise rebuilds, and he's one of the biggest YouTube content creators for Madden. So I appreciate that a ton, man. And I think it's super cool that you were able to find this like love for something when the world was falling apart. And even though everything's pretty much back to normal now, you've kind of maintained that to the point where you're playing, but you're also finding a lot of guys you like. And you know, you mentioned this Richie 2K guy who makes player sculpts that you like to watch when you're looking for players. Who else do you like really enjoy watching their uploads and what they're doing for 2K?
Obviously, you know, cheap plug. I like your stuff. I got every time you're on Twitch, I try to tune in. I enjoy it. I got to give a big shout out to Pee-wee, man. Your boy Pee-wee the plug. Like he makes, I'm really, really into like and I've been trying to pressure you to do more of these, is the long form, rebuild, I guess you can call it, but like where there's multiple episodes and they go multiple seasons. And they, you know, they do like realistic, like they take over a franchise and they run it for a few years. Pee-wee does a really good job at that, and his are very well thought out. They're super realistic, and he gives you a lot of insight on what the reason why he does what moves he does. So shout out to him. I really enjoy. He's got an Atlanta Hawks one. Obviously, he's using your stuff. He's got an Atlanta Hawks series right now that I'm really, really enjoying. I'm watching every episode. There's other guys. I gotta pull up my list here. There's another guy named Stumpy, and he does rebuilds. It's always an expansion draft, and he doesn't play the games. He just makes, it's wild. He makes the roster decisions, the coaching decisions, blah 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 blah. He sets the rotations, and then he lets the CPU play the CPU for season after season after season. He'll go 10 seasons, and it's just really interesting. He just simulates games, but then every episode you'll watch a full game, and it's CPU versus CPU. So you'll actually get to see gameplay, but he's not actually playing. And so that's interesting to me because I'm sure it gets frustrating, and I hear it because he'll commentate over it and he'll get frustrated, but you can't do anything about it. When we get mad, we can like, okay, we got to run this a different way, right? Because we're playing. He just has to trust the team and hope that the team will play it, you know, and he can set the rotations, he can set the game plan, but then it's out of his hands, which is pretty cool. So he does one every year. There's another guy, Rusty Buckets or something. He is similar to Pee Wee, where he'll take over a franchise and he will just make very realistic, well thought out decisions with his franchise. The only knock I have on him is he never ever finishes. They're so good, and you'll get so into this franchise, and he'll have all these people to comment, oh, this is so good, blah 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 blah, and he'll just stop cold. Like, no, he won't say anything. He won't say, hey, this is the last episode, or hey, I can't do it anymore. He'll just stop. And so he gets us every year with that. And who else? There's another guy, Rel's Gamer Tag. He's really good with giving you plays. Like, he has really good plays. He'll say, oh, this is the best plays from the Nuggets playbook or the Kings playbook. He's great. There's a guy named Octagonal Gaming. He does a different franchise every single year. Also makes very good, well thought out decisions. And one thing that he does that I got from him is he'll make trades for other teams and signings for other teams. And that was one thing that I picked up from him because I thought it was really cool because it freshens up the rest of the league. You know, if you let the CPU make its own decisions, then, you know, Steph Curry is going to randomly end up playing on the Wizards, and Jason Tatum is going to win a championship with the Celtics and then immediately go play for the Jazz. Like, just crazy stuff happens if you just let it be. And then also all the trades that pop up are dumb trades. It'll be like, I got a trade. I've told you about this before. I got a trade offer once from the Oklahoma City Thunder. They offered me Ty Jerome and 1 second-round pick for LeBron James. And I'm like, should I do this? Like, what is that? Just dumb trades. And so, yeah, you can make your own trades and it freshens up the rest of the league. So I've told you about that before. There's so many guys. Yeah, and just it's hard to get into everybody, man. There's a guy, JL 2K Shoes. He tells you how to make sneakers. There's another account that's similar to that, Kicks on 2K. They tell you how to make sneakers. King Sim Kits. He doesn't start his franchise until after the trade deadline every year. So he should be starting his soon because he wants the rosters up to date. 2K with the Pop Boy. He's another guy I discovered very early on. Cool guy. Man, 6 Rings of Steel. You know, like, bro, there's so many. I can go on forever. Codename Steve. Crushables, already said. You know, again, I can go on forever, man. I like shouting these guys out because I watch a lot of 2K content on YouTube, and people will probably find that weird for me to do that. But for me, it's a release. I get up every day. I'm on my eating plan. I'm going to the gym. I'm taking care of whatever business I have to take care of. I'm going on the road. I'm traveling. I'm in the wrestling world, and I'm doing everything. And so 2K for me, whether I'm playing or even watching, it's like a release. It takes me out of the world that I live in every day. And it just takes me to another place where I can like just enjoy the fantasy world of like, and your Chicago Bulls team, you have DeJounte Murray, you know, and you've got these guys, and it's like, okay, cool, this is fun. Like, this is something different, and I just love watching people play, and I love basketball, so you know that doubles down on that.
No, yeah, I think you nailed it on the head, and I want to say, you know, you talked about why you like P's stuff so much. I think what makes his content and the way he runs his so unique and special compared to the way other people do it, including myself. When I try to build a team, I don't look at it the same way he looks at when he builds a team. He looks at it from a completely different analytical view, because that's what he does. Like, his basketball knowledge and player knowledge is off the charts. I mean, he scouts players. He watches the games. He has to know these things in depth. And when I watch him play, like, he'll put guys together that if it were me, I would put this guy out here with this guy. This guy's rated better. He does this better, blah, blah, blah. But he goes more in depth into that. He's like, He looks at other aspects of those players' games and how they could mesh together on the floor. And the dude's right 9 times out of 10. I mean, there's one time I was streaming, I think it was 2K22. I was streaming and I was having some issues with my lineup, and he was on the stream.
I was there. I was listening.
You were there. He called me on
you.
stream, and he told me how to set up my lineup to get it to work right.
Yep. He told you who to sign.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he had you sign Josh Richardson or something like that. Like, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, absolutely. I love that, man. I love that. You know, someone else who does that, and I actually want to make sure I shout this guy out because he is new to, I think the 2K like YouTube community. He's trying to build his audience. His YouTube name is AVC, and it's like at AVC_streams. And what it is he's an actual former or current, I think he's current. He's a college basketball coach.
Oh,
and so he did this Wizards franchise rebuild that he just finished. And what was cool about him is it's similar to P, is he's thinking of it as a coach with analytics and why you're doing this. And when he's commentating while playing, he's saying, hey, I'm going to run this. And he's breaking down what you're watching for the way a coach would break down what you're watching. And so I just found that so different from every other franchise I've ever watched, because I've never seen someone from a coaching perspective be able to call out plays and, hey, this is what they're doing, and this is how they're defending me, and this is how I'll do this. And I just thought it was great, and I think everyone should check him out. He does also videos where he just commentates on the NBA, but he's great, man. I'm trying to get him to do another real cool cat. He's got only 628 subscribers, so make sure you guys
grinding.
He's still grinding. He's trying to build that audience. And so you guys are probably 2 guys I should link up, see if you guys can maybe throw you some sliders. I think he's on default, so
I love there's a couple guys in the 2K community that I've been trying to link up with to do projects together. Tico Stakori is one of them, because he's big on
Tico. Yeah.
Yes, he's very, very big on the attention to detail. Not the same as what Celtic LG does, but the accessories, the shoes, the playbooks, everything like that. And I have been really trying hard to link up with him. He said he'd come on the podcast, and I'm gonna hit him hard about, all right, man, when are we linking up? Because he's used my stuff before, but he does a whole other element in his editing that I just don't do. I don't have the knowledge for the shoes, the accessories, all that. That's just not my thing. And so it's like, man, to be able to link up where I can apply the tendency edits and stuff like that, and then he takes it and does his thing, and then we present that to the community.
Yeah.
That would just be like taking it to a whole other level.
Absolutely.
And he's a super cool person. He's been very kind, man.
He's a guy I forgot to shout out. Like I said, there's so many guys, but yeah, he's a guy. I watch his videos too, man. I watch all his videos.
Oh yeah, he's great stuff, man. And hopefully we can do some links up, because I would love to get together with some people in the community. Like, luckily for me, man, I reached out to a lot of people for 2K specifically in the 2K community to come on and let's talk 2K, let's talk things, and they were down. So hopefully that could be the start of maybe some sort of collaboration project in the future for 2K25 at this point. A little too late to really, going on 2K24.
Right.
So let's circle away from 2K for a moment, and because I have a lot of I don't know if I want to call them fans. I'll say followers, or people who watch my content or whatever, who are very, very big fans of both AEW and WWE.
Okay.
And so my question for you, for them, is going to be like, what are your plans for 2024 and beyond, like in the AEW and going forward? Obviously there's probably certain things you can't disclose, but just if there is anything that anything that you're allowed to say as far as plans for your future, or
nothing at the moment. Just get healthy, stay healthy. You know, you can't do anything if you're not on the bench. You know, and so you gotta get yourself in the position to where you can do something. I have dealt with a number of injuries this year. They're calling me street clothes. So I got to get right. And that's the first goal. And then everything else will fall into place. But,
right.
you know, I like to hear that people are fans of, you know, really both products as well as TNA, because they're doing some good things too. So I think people should put some eyes on that as well. The more eyes on all the products, the better it is for guys like myself, like the worker bees, the guys that are actually going out and performing, and you know, you have more places to perform, and if someone else is doing better, that means you're doing better as well. So the more eyes on the product, the better.
Yeah, I agree. And I obviously I want you to be able to get healthy too, man. Injuries are just the worst thing that can happen to an athlete, of course, especially when they're just that nagging thing that won't allow them to get right. I mean, you think if Joel Embiid had like the first 4 years of his career derailed, and he just kept telling people to trust the process, and he turned into an MVP. But then again, this year, you know, look what happened again this year, you know. So
the game is so physical, man. It's tough for these guys, especially these big guys. Like Embiid is a very, very big guy, and the game is just so physical. Like, it's so fast, and there's so much off-ball movement and cutting, and just like the athletes are bigger and they're faster, and they're, you know, it's just like, it's crazy. And so injuries are happening, you know, and from what, obviously I'm not on the inside, but you hear that guys don't practice as much anymore. And I think that probably plays a factor if that is the case, because I know for me personally, if I'm not actively doing it, then you're not building that callus, and it makes you more susceptible to injury. So it's tough, man. And it's hopefully Embiid can get healthy, man, because he's been having an incredible season. He's going to miss out on the MVP because he's not going to have the minimum amount of games played, unfortunately. Hate that rule still, but hopefully he'll be able to get back and be healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd like to see him have a chance to truly. I'd like to see him in NBA Finals, man. Like the fact that he's never made it to even a conference finals just blows my mind. You had the Kawhi shot with Toronto. That was their year, honestly, because
bro, last year was their year. They were up 3-2 on the. That was their year as well. But last year too, I think they were up 3-2 on the Celtics. Game 6 in
but the Celtics
Philly
didn't even make it to the finals.
No. But like up 3-2 on the Celtics, game 6 in Philly, lost game 6, lost game 7. Would they have beat Miami? I don't know,
or Denver. So the reason I think that
nobody would have beat Denver last year.
So that's why I say the year that they lost to the Raptors on that Kawhi shot in game 7 was because the Warriors were so banged up.
That's true. That was
the Warriors were,
and they had a team. Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick, Tobias Harris. I mean, they had a team.
They were loaded.
Yeah. Ben was still elite. Like, man, that was their year.
Speaking of loaded, the Lakers loaded up at the trade deadline by signing Spencer Dinwiddie.
I like the signing, man. I really do. I thought we were actually not going to get him. I had heard that Dallas had the ability to pay him more. And so when I heard that last night, I was like, oh, damn, well, you know, it's really the same situation here and Dallas, because he's going to play the same role either way, which is like a backup point guard, which is what he did for them before. And he had arguably one of his best seasons when he was with Dallas. They went to the conference finals. So I was like, okay, that's a wrap. And then this morning, the news broke that he's coming to the Lakers, which he is an LA guy. So that was kind of what I was hoping. We haven't had a backup point guard all year because Gabe Vincent's only played 5 games and he had knee surgery. So to bring in a guy that can give us some scoring off the bench, because the Lakers, that's their big problem this year, is there's just not enough scoring consistently. Some nights they're incredible, other nights terrible. They call this the Jekyll and Hyde season, because some nights the team looks like a championship contender, and then
going to Boston without AD and LeBron and beat a full strength Celtics team who had only lost that was their second loss at home all year.
Yeah, and then like what was that? A few days before that, or after that, they get blown out by Houston.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like this team is just so consistently inconsistent, is what I think. I think
Yep.
Shams or Woj said that, but a lot of it has been injuries. The starting lineup has changed so much. Vando finally was coming into his form. Boom, he gets hurt again. Reddish has been in and out of the lineup. Rui, earlier this season, Rui started with an injury. He came back, he broke his nose. He came back, he got a concussion. Like, just so many injuries to the wings, and obviously Gabe. So if we can just get healthy, and now we've got some scoring that help come off the bench, and they're kind of rounding in the form. I think they've won 6 of their last 10, 7 of their last 10, something like that. Hopefully they can get it together, stay healthy. If you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the playoffs and they're healthy, you got a puncher's chance.
Oh, absolutely. Do you think, like, I shouldn't say do you think, who do you think was the biggest winner at the trade deadline, both for the West and the East, as far as, okay, this move they made, I think really put this team in a driver's seat to go to the finals for the West and the East?
The Knicks. If you look at what they did even before the deadline with getting OG, and unfortunately they're hitting injuries too. OG's hurt, Randall's hurt, but they shouldn't be long-term injuries. But I think Jalen Brunson is one of the best point guards in the league. He's probably top 5, something like that. If not, he's very, very close to the top 5 in the top 10. He's incredible. There was always the talk of like, oh, we need to go get Donovan Mitchell. We need to go. It's like, you have Jalen Brunson. They're kind of the same guy. They're like the same height. They play about the same way. I don't think you need that. And then they go out and they get a guy like OG Anunoby. It's like, that's what you need. You need a big wing 2-way player that can defend the Jason Tatums and the Jaylen Browns and those types of guys. And then they go out and they get Alec Burks back, who played very well for them. And they get Bojan Bogdanovic, who's one of the best shooters in the league, another wing. And a year ago, they were saying, we want a good young player and a first-round pick for Bojan Bogdanovic. They got Burks and Bogdanovic for Evan Fournier, basically a contract, Quentin Grimes, good young player, and 2 second-round picks. And the Knicks have 100 first-round picks, and they only had to give up second-round picks. It was a great deal. I like them. And now with Embiid injured, you don't know what's going to happen with Milwaukee. They seem very shaky. Miami seems shaky. Boston looks great. But after Boston and Cleveland, because Cleveland looks phenomenal, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get stops in the playoffs. It's the Knicks. Like, the Knicks are in a real position to do something. If not this year, then maybe next year. And then in the West, I don't think anyone in the West made any huge moves. I like the trade deadline that the Mavericks had, getting Daniel Gafford, getting PJ Washington. They would probably be the best.
They're really the only ones. I thought. I mean, the Clippers didn't make a move really, but they didn't need to. They're killing it right now.
I like Phoenix. Phoenix getting Royce O'Neal was good.
Yeah, but their biggest issue, like you talked about with the Knicks, is Phoenix can't be healthy. They haven't been healthy all year. How many games has Beal, Booker, and Durant played together?
Not many. That seems to be a trend with Kevin Durant teams, man, lately. He gets these big threes, and they just never play together.
I would have liked to see the Timberwolves try to do something to stay.
Oh, they got Monte Morris. That's a nice pickup.
Oh, that's right. They did.
They got that team. That team might be a sleeper, man.
It really is.
They got a great coach who knows how to run 2 bigs. I think he was on the coaching staff when Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins were both in New Orleans, and they were deadly. And they have the thing that makes Denver so dangerous. It's not just Nikola Jokic. It's not just Jamal Murray. It's that they're a big team. Like, Jokic is big. Michael Porter Jr. is 6'10". Aaron Gordon is like 6'8", 6'9". Jamal Murray is
like a built 6'8".
Strong,
like
big.
That dude's a
KCP 6'5", strong. Jamal Murray, I want to say he's probably 6'4",
6'3",
size. 6'4". And then they got size coming off the bench. They're a big team. And so if you look at the Timberwolves, aside from Mike Conley, they're a big team. You know, Gobert, Cat, Jaden McDaniels, Ant, who's, for me, Ant might be the MVP. Not Embiid, not Jokic. Ant might be the MVP for me. If you look at the way he's playing and and how far that team is going,
not Luka.
It's incredible. No, for me, it's Ant or SGA.
Okay, yeah, SGA. I do love SGA.
Those are the two MVPs
SGA,
for me, because it's kind of like once you have a guy like Jokic who's won 2 or 3 times already, and Embiid already won, it's like, okay, if you're going to do it again and again and again, what can you do different? What are you how are you advancing the game? And to me, this isn't a knock, but Embiid and Jokic they're coming back and just being Embiid and Jokic. And if you're going to be a multi-time MVP, that's not enough. You got to advance the game. You got to take your game to the next level. And so that's why I think it passes down. Now you've got SGA and Ant, who are young guys leading young teams to be the top of the Western Conference. That's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Thunder team, man, and they're still loaded up with draft capital. Yeah. So I don't know. They got all this young talent they're going to let keep getting better, and they're already good. So it's like, you know, that's going to be a scary, scary team. And I mean, they're already, great now, but I mean, in 2 to 3 years, those young guys. Oof. I'm very curious what the Pat Beverly effect is going to be in Milwaukee. We know that they've had a very slow start with Doc Rivers. I really don't understand the coaching change there, considering the winning percentage that they had. But Pat Bev is a dog, man. He's a dog.
Yeah.
In come playoff time, you're gonna need somebody who's gonna go harass Jalen Brunson, who's gonna go harass Derek White, who's gonna go harass Tyler Hero.
I like that move, because I was very skeptical. Obviously, when they made the trade for Damian Lillard, it's like, okay, that's Damian Lillard, and you immediately think him and Giannis, that's going to be a crazy, scary pick and roll. However, you're losing a lot of defense when you give up Drew Holiday, and the Bucks' identity was their defense. Obviously, that changed when they got a new coach, but under Coach Bud, it was defense. And they had a good record, you know. Obviously, they had, at the time that Adrian Griffin was fired, they had lost 19 games, I think. That's it. And I think what's happening now with Doc is when you replace a head coach mid-season, you're changing your entire system. You're incorporating an entirely new system, and obviously that's going to take time to adjust. And fortunately for them, they had a nice enough lead in the standings to where if they fall back a little bit, they're going to be okay. If they're a really good team and they're the 5 seed, they're not sweating it. It's okay. Not a big deal. They can go into another arena and win games. But bringing on Patrick Beverly is going to help them with that defense that they've been lacking a lot more than Cameron Payne. So that was a good move for them.
Yeah, no, I think it's really going to be interesting how everything shakes up. I'm definitely curious if the Lakers will be able to go on a little bit of a run. And because they went on a run last year. To say the least. Yeah.
Do
they have it in them again this year? Not as good pieces.
Yeah. Well, their pieces, I think, are better this year, but I don't know. I think our coaching was better last year. But LeBron is healthy this year. Well, he's had a few things here and there, but a lot of people don't understand is in the middle of that run that we made last year, LeBron had a bad foot injury. And he needed surgery, and he came back and played the entire playoffs on a bad foot. That's why he was shooting, 28 or 12% from 3, whatever he was shooting. You could just see it wasn't there. He didn't have that explosiveness. He was favoring that foot. And this year, now he's shooting 40%. He's got that explosiveness. He's playing incredible. And it's just like, well, it's not that he, like a lot of people last year were like, oh, he's lost it. This is him. He's old. And it's like, no, he was hurt. You see now, like, okay, this is him somewhat healthy. And Anthony Davis, if you ignore our record, Anthony Davis is having an MVP season. If you just look at the way he's playing, and, if we were a top 4 seed, he'd be an MVP candidate. He's got the games played. He's not missing games. He should be the defensive player of the year by far. Clearly, he is the best defender in the NBA, but I think they're probably going to give it to Rudy Gobert because of the record. But again, you got those two guys, you got a chance. And you know, I like the Spencer Dinwiddie pickup. D'Lo has been playing out of his mind, unsustainable. He's not going to do it every night, but if he gives you a few of those nights, that'll help. Same thing with Reeves. You get healthy, you get your wing defenders and Vando and Cam Reddish back. And you know, we've had some really bad moments, but we've had some tough matchups for everybody. We beat the Clippers twice. We beat the Celtics without LeBron or Anthony Davis. We just scored 84 points in the first half on the Pelicans last night. There's potential, and again, if you look at their in-season tournament play, that wasn't fake, that was real. You know, they have a level that they can go to. We played the Knicks a week or two ago and held them scoreless for 7 minutes in the fourth quarter. They have a level that they can go to defensively. Yeah, there's a level they can get to defensively, but they just don't get there every night. But fortunately, in the playoffs, it's going to be different, and you can ratchet things up, and hopefully that's the level they'll play at. And we can see, I don't think there's a championship, or in our future, but you just never know.
Yeah, anything can happen, man. Injuries obviously play a big part of it. I'm really curious how the Lakers would fare in a 7-game series against a big, strong team like the Wolves, or a young, up and down the court team like the Thunder, who seem to always have the Lakers number.
I don't know. We beat them the last couple times. Like, I'm not scared of the Thunder.
You're not scared of the Thunder.
I think our physicality, and things are slower in the playoffs, right? It's a lot more half court. And the fact that we're a bigger physical team that gets to the line, because that's another thing. The Lakers are, again, for the second year, they're one of the best teams at getting to the line because of that physical play on the inside. And you have a guy like Anthony Davis that you have to foul. You can't guard him. Like, you have to foul him. And then the fact that we're also one of the best teams with defending without fouling. So you'll see a lot of games where we're shooting 25 free throws and the other team shooting 14, you know, because they're really good at defending without fouling. That's a scheme. That's one thing you can say that's good about Darvin Ham, is that's been a thing since bringing him on. We don't foul a lot, at least not every night. And so that's why the Thunder doesn't scare me, man. Like, they're a team that, you know, I just think we'd be so big and physical and playoff tested that we would beat them. The Timberwolves would be interesting. I think I would have confidence facing them. The team that I would be very unsure about in the playoffs is Denver. That's still Denver. I'm not really afraid of anybody else. Denver is the team that we just, and a lot of it isn't necessarily like they're not an unbeatable team. It's just whenever we play them, every 50-50 ball goes their way. Right. We saw it again a few nights ago. It's just like, like, you get a stop and it's a loose ball and everybody's fighting for it, and somehow it just rolls right to Jamal Murray. He grabs it, he hits a three. That happened so many times in the playoffs. And when we played it, and it just seems like every possession that is up for grabs goes their way. If you look at the playoff series we played, every game was 2 or 3 possessions away from us winning. Like, we could have swept them, you know what I mean, if those possessions went our way every game. But they all went their way, and that team is they're going to be so tough to beat. Yeah, no, they're going to be tough to beat. I'm curious what the Clippers are going to look like in a 7-game series, because it's really coming together for them now, taking some time. If Phoenix ever gets healthy, like, the West is as loaded as I can ever remember it being. Like, it's crazy to me how loaded the West is. The fact that you're going to have teams winning 50 games in the play. I mean, you really don't know who's coming out too. That's the thing. You don't know who's coming out of the West. It was similar to last year. You didn't know who was coming out of the West, which is awesome. It's exciting. The East is a lot more predictable, although nobody really saw Miami coming out last year. And I wouldn't count Miami out again. Like, Miami's just one of those teams. They're the same. Like, they were the 8th seed last year. They lost the play-in game. Or they were the 7 or 8, whatever it was. I think they lost their first play-in game, won their second play-in game, and then went to the finals. Like, you can't count them out. They're similar. It's like, you get Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, you know, you got a chance. And so I think it's Boston in the East. Unfortunately, obviously, because I'm a Laker guy, I don't want to see Boston go, but the West is a lot more interesting.
Right. It's gonna be exciting, man. And playoffs are only 2 months away. It's crazy to think about. What's nice is we get a little March Madness in between to kind of get everyone amped up.
Dude, and I didn't even mention the fact that one of my big motivators for hoping we would get Spencer Dinwiddie was being able to use him in 2K. I was like, when I saw we signed him, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna enjoy using Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, yeah, it's gonna be nice. I don't have to wait till the offseason to get a new player.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I was so tempted to restart with the trade deadline. And I didn't even know if I was going to restart with the Bulls. I had one of two ideas that I kind of wanted to go with, which was either just the Hornets, because they dumped Gordon Hayward's contract, which has always been what his contract, along with one or two other players, has always been what made the Hornets so difficult. They got LaMelo there. You got Brandon Miller. You got some guys there. You got Miles Bridges. But you need some depth. But you couldn't ever add depth because you had Gordon Hayward making $30 million. And he was an impossible to move contract.
Yeah.
Well, they did it. So I was like, man, the Hornets would be kind of cool. I like their jerseys. I like their court.
Yeah.
Which is big for me. The other idea I had was to take the Wizards, relocate them to Seattle, become the Supersonics again, put the Grizzlies in the East to offset it, because they should realistically be in the East anyway.
They should. Them or New Orleans.
You know, so I was, one of the two.
Yeah.
I think the Grizzlies would be more interesting to put there. They could just fit in that central, perfectly, and then just move someone from this, So I was like, all right, take the Wizards, move them, be the Supersonics, and then move the Grizzlies back over there, and then blow it up. Like
the Wizards.
The Wizards, yeah. Sign.
The thing is, they could still be the Washington Wizards if they're in Seattle.
Well,
that's what's funny, actually.
Yeah, I know, right? No, I would totally do the rebrand. They have
that's interesting.
The game and
dude, I think honestly, I think you should do one of them, because you didn't want to do the Bulls anyway. That was fan voted. I remember the funny thing is you wanted to use the Timberwolves, and this was before the Timberwolves were like what they are. This was before we knew they were going to be really good. And I was telling you back then, I was like, dude, just be the Wolves. Like, just do it. But
I was going to trade Gobert, though. Like, that's the thing. I was going to blow that up a little bit, too. Like, I was like...
And that's the thing, though. Here's the thing I want you to lock in on is play the grind game. You know what I mean? Because you're always telling me, like, I'll just do something. Like, change the team up. I'm like, no. It's sweeter when you grind out a little bit with the team you have and then make changes. And so I think you can get a happy medium out of, let's say you did the Wizards or you did the Hornets. You play the rest of the season as they are, and then
you can't make a trade at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't make a trade at this point.
So you play out these last 2 months. Neither team's making the playoffs. You sim through the playoffs quick. Boom. Summer, you do whatever you want, because the summer is like, that's where you can make big changes. It's hard to make like huge changes during the season, as you know, because you were trying to trade Zach and all these things. It's hard because the contracts. Yeah, but then in the summer, I don't think anyone's gonna look down, like knock, like, or lose interest if you switch teams right now.
Yeah, and that's
do it. Do it.
You know what? And the thing,
LaMelo is probably crazy. Very fun to use.
Oh, he's gonna be crazy fun, but so is DeJounte Murray.
Oh yeah.
And then I just added Tyler Hero. So I was able to move Levine, which was strictly a cap-based move.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of holes on my roster. I don't have a true starting wing. I have DeAndre Hunter, who has not played up to his contract.
Yeah.
And Pirtle, however the hell you say it. Yodel, I don't know how to say his name.
Pirtle.
Thank you. 5th time is a try. Hurdle, he's there. He's a body. He's big. He sets good screens. He gets rebounds. He's decent defensively. but he's not like a guy that I can throw the ball down to and get 20 points a game. Like I can't work the low post game with him.
Yeah.
Which I do like to do. I like it in and out game. I like. Yeah. I had so much fun last year with the Magic because I could post up Paolo.
Yeah.
And I like to have a big that I can post up. Now, unfortunately, the Hornets or the Wizards don't offer that at all. But that's something
you can make trades. You can go get somebody. And I'll throw this in. I'll throw this in as a third option. You seem pretty comfortable playing with those Pacers.
Yeah, but I can't take a team that's doing what they're doing.
All right, I got you.
You know what I mean? But I do enjoy.
Throw out there. Maybe you make that a fan vote. Do the Wizards / Sonics or the Hornets. The only thing about the expansion is
not an expansion.
There's or not expansion. Sorry, relocation. Because obviously you do the DNA thing to switch the team up.
Yep.
Is 2K that does come with a lot of bugs I've seen because I watch a lot of like they'll do relocations or expansions and it does come with a lot of bugs.
You lose the
there was one
announcer.
Yeah, there was one the guy I watched that only plays he doesn't play. It's CPU versus CPU. They just won the championship and they had Aaron Gordon from the other team that they just beat on the stage celebrating with them. He's like holding the trophy up. He's holding the MVP trophy. And like, it's just like, wait, what the hell? Why is he celebrating with the team that just beat him? He didn't win.
Right.
Like stuff like that. And, but if you don't mind stuff like that, and obviously you wouldn't have in-season tournament courts if you did, unless you designed them yourself, I guess. Yeah. Which would actually kind of be cool.
I was really leaning, and I'll be honest with you, because I was working hard on the scenario and doing test simulations and stuff like that. And I spent a whole bunch of time on 2K when I was working that trade deadline scenario update. And I even went on and looked on Behance. Like, there's some real, like, I don't like the Hornets jerseys how they are right now. I like their white ones, but there's just, I liked them. Like a couple years ago, they had the black and the teal, which I thought was super dope. They don't have a black jersey anymore, which drives me crazy. I wish they implemented more teal in their white jersey. Like, I don't like the full-on purple. I think purple's better as an accent color for their jerseys. I don't
like the purple either one.
I like the teal. I like the white. I like black. And then, there's something cool they could do for like a city uniform, but whatever. But I did find, I like their court kind of. But you could do some really cool things with the court because of the hive aspect of it with the hexagon floor.
Yeah,
I did when I was glancing through 2K shares upload for the Hornets. I found a couple cool courts and I found a couple cool uniforms, and I was like, man! I was like, you got LaMelo, you got Brandon Miller, you got Miles Bridges.
Yeah,
I was like, I would instantly go sign Killian Hayes, just chilling in the free agent pool.
Yep. And I think they're going to have some money. They might have some money in the offseason.
They're going to have some money now, too. They don't have anybody down low post-wise. They got, Mark Williams? And
they've got a little, but they also have to re-sign Bridges. Or they don't have to, but LaMelo's extension kicks in. So they're not going to have as much money as you would think. And they have Davis Bertans contract as well on the books. So, but they, they'll have cap space. They're not capped out, but once they re-sign Bridges, they'll be capped out, I think.
Yeah. No, I thought that'd be a fun one to do. Like,
that would be fun.
Just because the Bulls, I had 3 players rated over 80 pretty significantly. Levine an 88, DeRozan was like an 87, and then Vucevic was like an 80 or an 82. And then Kobe White hadn't got his bump up that he now has from when I started, and I traded him anyway. But the Bulls honestly had a lot better of a roster for making trades and building how I wanted the right way. And so, that's kind of where I've been torn with. Like, man, I kind of really want to, just grab the new shit and roll with the Hornets and start over. Bro. I just don't know.
I'm a fan, dude. Why not do it? I think this is the time. Trade deadline is a lot of times where people will switch things up or they'll even start their franchise. Like I said, that guy King Simp Kids, he doesn't even start his franchise until after the trade deadline. So I think now's a good time. Now is kind of that real time where you can lock in right now and you can get a good run of a season or two before the next game comes out. So I would say, yeah, why not do it? I think that honestly that could be fun too. If you choose one of those teams that are on the bottom, but they've got potential, and you just play out the rest of the season, get past the playoffs, and then get in the off season, and then that's when you can really have some fun and make some changes, and then boom, get to that next season. I think that'd be interesting. I would obviously, I'm gonna watch regardless, but that would be interesting.
I'm torn, man. We'll see what happens. I really want to. I like my Bulls one, but at the same time, I felt like we took second in season tournament. I felt like I was able to like make that push to be great a little bit easier, a little bit quicker than I personally would have liked to. Because the way I see it right now, we're sitting in my franchise, we're like a 500 team. We're on like 4 or 5 games over 500, but I mean we're gonna make the playoffs. And then when I'm in the playoffs, I play every game pretty much, and you know, I feel like we could be a second round team for sure. And we do have those 2 first-round picks, and I'm just like, maybe I want to do something that's a little bit more like of a long game, like you're kind of talking about.
Yeah, man, the long game.
The long game. Yeah,
I got to play out the rest of my season. We didn't make any big moves, so the team is the team. Play out the rest of my season, see what happens in the playoffs, and then get to the off season where I can really put my touch on and build the roster that I have in mind. So
that's what I'm excited for with you, man. Is I like watching you play, but I really want to see your off season, like everything you do, not just because you don't just do the Lakers, man. You do everything. So I'm really curious what that mind comes up with for everybody else.
I already got ideas for other teams. I like freshening up the league, man. I get excited to play like, I get to play this team and I made these changes. Now this is their starting five. Like that's exciting to me.
Yeah, man. I can't wait. And I know you'll share everything that you do in the Discord. Obviously you're not on Twitter. Unfortunately, I hope you come back one day because I miss having you on there. But I can understand also like the benefits of not being on Twitter too. So, but I'm excited to see, because I know you'll post it in the Discord for everybody.
For sure.
And we'll talk and communicate as well, man. So I do want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. It means the world to me. And I think it'd be a cool, fun idea if we can circle back around and do this again after 2K25 drops.
Yeah, man.
And kind of talk about 2K25 initial impressions. Maybe in the first week or two that it's announced, we've really got our hands in there. We can go back and talk about 2K25.
For sure, man. Let's do it.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you so much, man. Take care. Everybody listening, we got this on YouTube. We got this on Spotify. Make sure you find it and subscribe. And let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you guys for listening. Take care.